If my engine hadn't screamed like a dying animal, I probably would have kept drifting through that nebula forever without realizing how close I was to disappearing from the map entirely, and that's the part that still haunts me. Space doesn't kill you loudly, it erases you quietly, one failed system at a time. I was flying solo through the outer fringe of the Orion Veil, a sector so remote even smugglers avoided it, mapping mineral signatures for a contract that barely paid enough to justify the risk, when the main drive shuddered under my boots, sparked once, twice, and then detonated in a cough of smoke and blue light that filled the cockpit with a smell of burning circuits. The ship lurched, gravity flickered, and suddenly I was floating in silence, staring at a dashboard that had gone from alive to dead in less than 3 seconds. The auxiliary systems held, barely, life support whispering like a tired lung, emergency lights bathing everything in a dull red glow, but propulsion was gone, and without propulsion in deep space, you're not a pilot anymore, you're debris. I ran scans with shaking hands, sweeping every channel for stations, patrols, even pirates, because pirates at least meant witnesses, but the quadrant returned nothing except static and cold coordinates. I laughed once, a dry, humorless sound, and slumped back in my seat thinking this was how it ended. Not in battle, not in glory, just stranded and forgotten. That's when a shadow slid across the viewport. At first I thought it was a sensor glitch, but the shape resolved into a ship unlike anything I'd ever seen. Sleek, curved, almost grown rather than built, its surface rippling with colors that mirrored the nebula like liquid glass. It didn't approach aggressively. It glided, controlled, deliberate, and before I could even reach for the comms, a docking beam locked onto my hull with a gentle magnetic thud. A voice filled the cockpit, smooth and melodic, but carrying the weight of command. "Your vessel is failing," she said. "I can restore it." I blinked at the empty air. "Who are you?" I managed. "My designation is heiress," she replied. "And I offer assistance under one condition." Every instinct I had screamed trap, but desperation is louder than instinct. "What condition?" I asked. There was a pause, not hesitation, but calculation. "After repairs, you will accompany me for one operational cycle and aid me in a task of my choosing." My stomach tightened. No threats. No bargaining. Just certainty. Outside, the void stretched infinite and patient. I did the math and realized I didn't have leverage. I had oxygen and a dying battery. "Fix the ship," I said quietly. "I'll go." The moment the words left my mouth, her vessel interfaced with mine. Panels opened on their own, tools I didn't recognize extended from her hull like silver tendrils, and my dead engine began to hum as if waking from a nightmare. The repairs were impossibly fast. Systems rebooted cleaner than factory default, power flowing smoother than it ever had. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "You just upgraded half my drive," I said. "You're welcome," Eris replied calmly. "Now you will honor the agreement." We traveled side by side through the nebula, lightning storms crawling across the clouds like living veins, and she briefed me without drama. A research colony on a nearby moon had been seized by a splinter faction harvesting unstable energy cores, weapons that could rip holes in local space if mishandled. "I require assistance stabilizing the station and removing the threat," she said. "I'm not a soldier," I admitted. "You are human," she answered. "Humans adapt." I didn't know whether that was faith or a gamble. When we reached the colony, chaos painted the sky, fires venting into vacuum, defense turrets firing blindly, hostile ships circling like vultures. Eris dove straight through the crossfire, her craft moving with impossible precision, landing us near a shattered access port. "Stay close," she said, and then she moved. I'd seen professionals fight before. I'd never seen anything like her. Energy blades unfolded from her arms in arcs of pale light, and every step she took was efficient, measured, final. She wasn't reckless, she was inevitable. I followed, rerouting doors, sealing corridors, using my knowledge of infrastructure to choke enemy movement. Fear rode my spine the entire time, but she never treated me like dead weight. When I succeeded, she acknowledged it with a nod. When I faltered, she adjusted around me instead of scolding. At one junction, a heavy assault drone cornered me, cannon charging with a scream that rattled my teeth. I froze, pure animal terror, and then the drone split in half before it fired. Eris stood behind it, blade fading. You hesitated, she said evenly. But you endured. That is progress. We pushed deeper until the station core was secured and the faction routed. Silence settled over the ruins, broken only by distant alarms. I leaned against a console, shaking with adrenaline. I barely kept up, I said. You contributed, she corrected. You survived, adapted, and acted. That is enough. She studied me then, amber eyes unreadable. Trust is rarer than skill, she added softly. You trusted me in a void where trust could have killed you. I didn't have an answer to that. We returned to my ship in a quiet drift, the battle already feeling unreal. Eris lingered at the airlock. I could continue to guide you, she said. But survival is a choice you must renew alone. I nodded slowly. Then I guess this is where I say, thanks. And hey, if anyone's listening to this log later, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this only exist if someone survives long enough to tell them. She tilted her head, amused by something she didn't fully understand. Humans, she murmured. You turn survival into narrative. It helps, I said. For the first time, she smiled. Small, real. Remember, she told me, stepping back into her ship, aid is not a transaction. It is the beginning of understanding. Her vessel peeled away, dissolving into the nebula's glow, and I sat there watching until the last trace vanished. The galaxy was still dangerous, still vast, still indifferent, but it no longer felt empty. Somewhere out there was a being who had seen me at my worst moment and decided I was worth saving, and that knowledge changed the weight of the stars. My engine purred, stronger than before, and I set a new course, realizing that accepting help hadn't ended my journey at all. It had expanded it, stretching my future wider than the map I'd been hired to chart, and for the first time since I'd started flying, I wasn't chasing credits or coordinates. I was chasing the possibility that trust, once given in the dark, could light paths I hadn't even imagined yet.